Can I effectively minister whilst actively sinning?
Can I effectively minister while actively sinning? The question's quite broad, so I'm going to have to kind of define it now. This is how I read the question from what you're saying. Can I effectively minister in terms of ministry in church, or preaching, teaching, worship leading, musicians, that kind of stuff? You're talking about public ministry?
Yeah, public ministry.
Because ministry is a massive word and we all minister.
Yeah.
But if you mean in that respect, I think definitely. And that might be a bit controversial for some, because they're thinking, well, if you're not living a holy life, then your preaching ain't going to be right, your teaching ain't going to be right. Mm-hmm. But actually, there are some people who are gifted in teaching, who are gifted musicians. So actually they do it without thinking. They're still ministering as far as we're concerned, but the life they're living doesn't line up with the things that we're seeing on the pulpit, or on the drums, or on the keyboards. And eventually it usually comes out, these things get revealed. And it's funny because 2 Corinthians, looking at chapter 11, says that for Satan himself transforms himself into an angel of light. Therefore it is no great thing if his masters also transform themselves into ministers of righteousness, whose end will be according to their works. Now I'm not necessarily saying that these people are definitely agents of Satan. That's not what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
But if they're not really his and don't understand why they're in it, and they're not in it for the right motives, they might think they're saved and they're not. Or because you can tell from the fruit of what they're doing. Just because you can play great or preach great or teach great does not mean you're following Christ. Mm-hmm. And that's probably a big revelation to many people. And we don't know what master but under, we just live. We have to remember Matthew 7:22, which puts another spin on it, where Jesus says that people will come to him and say, I did this in your name, I cast out demons, I did miracles in your name, and Jesus will turn around to them and say, turn from me, you workers of lawlessness, because I never knew you. The irony is Jesus never said, you didn't cast out demons, you didn't do miracles. He didn't refute that at all. All he said is that I never knew you. And if people have a problem with that, the best way of thinking about that is that it's God's power that actually gets things done, not our own. It's God who saves, not the minister, not the preacher, not the musician, not the nice emotional music. God's doing the saving. If you remember that, then actually even things can be used which God in his own mind knows I'm not happy with who they are, but I'm not going to stop that from somebody else being saved. So the preacher might look good, but actually God is the one who did the saving on the Sunday morning. Okay. But he would want to bring that out in terms of who the preacher is for real, so his people don't get led astray. So as long as the people believing in God more than the preacher, when he falls it won't be a problem. If they believe in the preacher more, then it's a problem. So I'll probably just wrap that up by saying there are some who do great things for God, or so it appears. And Jesus was saying, not I used to know you when you fell off, or you used to like me then we fell out. I never knew you. So we really have to be careful in knowing who's for God and who isn't. And I think you can only know that person to person. So as a minister, you just see someone, you just see them preach, you just hear them. But you don't know their lives. And how many times have we heard of people who we thought were amazing, and the next thing you know, they were on drugs, or they had loads of women, or they didn't even believe half the things that was preaching, and then people fall away. So yeah, it's possible. But let's not get gassed by the gifts, and remember who the giver is, and then we won't easily be led astray. Read our Bibles, do our homework, and we'll be in a more of a solid place, not to get led astray by what is, in a sense, false teachers and false preachers.